So now that you got the understanding of what it's talking about with those burdens, it's talking about teaching a different doctrine. Okay? So now we're going to get the understanding of the commandment that Christ said. You have heard this forever, but you never knew what it meant. Burden means doctrine, your word, okay? We're going to go to Matthew 11, and we're going to start at verse 28. Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden. I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn of me, for I am meek and lowly in heart, and ye shall find rest unto your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Okay? So now here it is. Jeremiah gave the commandment through the Most High, bear no burden on the Sabbath. But Christ just made a distinction between his burden and the burdens of those other teachers, those priests, those kings, those Pharisees. Okay? So let me read it again. Come unto me, ye that labor and are heavy laden. So the people who are trying to learn, get the understanding, but heavy laden with the doctrines of these carnal people, because they putting burdens on those people. A lot of the Israelite camps got those people going out there first thing in the morning, getting ready so that they can go out there and preach those lies that they teach every Sabbath. All right, that's a burden, and you burdening them with the doctrine of a man, because that carnal doctrine is a man's doctrine. It's not Christ's doctrine. All right, he says, I will give you rest. Rest means something. You're going to get what rest means here real quickly. It says, take my yoke. A yoke is something that you put around, that you bind a field animal with, like a mule or a cow or ox or whatever. You put it around their neck. So it's something that keeps the person captive. You the property of this person. Okay? So he's talking about his yoke. His yoke is his doctrine. That's what you're supposed to be captive of, Christ's doctrine. All right. And learn of me. So he says, learn his doctrine. All right. He said, for I am meek and lowly in heart. He's not proud. Like all of these proud pastors that standing in them pulpits, shaking their head. All of that. That's a proud man who getting up in there telling you going to go to hell if you don't listen to what he say and give him your money. That's proud. All right. He ain't humble. He says, I am meek and lowly in heart, and ye shall find rest unto your soul. This is the rest. It's talking about that rest. We trying to explain what the rest of the Sabbath is. He's saying the rest is his doctrine. Y'all see that? For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. So his burden is easy. So usually when you think of burden, you think of heavy burdens. That's what he's comparing those carnal doctrines that you are being taught to his doctrine. He says his burden is light. Now that's like what they call a double entendre. It's got two meanings to it. Light as in not heavy, and light spiritually means wisdom. To rest is talking about learning Christ's doctrine. It means killing the old man by converting from the carnal doctrine that you are learning now to the spiritual doctrine that we are teaching you. Rest means to believe in the spiritual doctrine. We're going to give you some more precepts so that you understand that what I'm saying is true. Rest means to believe in the spiritual doctrine. Learn the spiritual doctrine. That's where your rest is. Christ is your rest. He just told you, come to him, he going to give you rest. All right. So he's telling you that's what you're going to be teaching on the Sabbath, not the carnal doctrine. That's why the Most High told him, take a day off. Let's go to Numbers chapter 11. We're going to start at verse 24. And Moses went out and told the people the words of the Lord, and gathered the 72 men of the elders of the people, and set them round about the tabernacle. And the Lord came down in a cloud, and spake unto them, and took of the Spirit that was upon him, and gave it unto the 70 elders. And it came to pass that when the Spirit rested upon them, they prophesied and did not cease. But there remained 2 of the men in the camp. The name of one was Eldad, and the name of the other was Medad. And the Spirit rested upon them, and they were of them that were written, but went not out unto the tabernacle, and they prophesied in the camp. So when it's saying that Spirit came on them, that means they got the spiritual understanding. They got the understanding of what the Most High gave to Moses. That's what rest means. Rest means you get the understanding and you believe. It means you believe the doctrine. So you have to learn the doctrine and believe the doctrine. There wasn't no spirit that came down from God and all that. All that's talking about Moses. Moses was teaching the men the spiritual doctrine. All right. I know it said, well, the Spirit came down on those men. Moses is the one that gave the men the understanding. Let me read it again so you can get the understanding. Moses went out and told the people the words of the Lord. That means he teaching it. And Moses went out and told the people the words of the Lord, and gathered the 70 men of the elders of the people, and set them round about the tabernacle. And the Lord came down in the cloud. The cloud is a place of understanding. That's somewhere where it's a doctrine. The cloud is Moses. All right. Moses is the cloud. All right. Clouds bring water. The person that's bringing the water, understanding, is Moses. You just don't know what it's saying, but it's saying exactly that. You just don't know how to read it. And he spake unto him, and took of the Spirit that was upon him, and gave it to the 70 elders. It's telling you Moses is teaching them. That's what that's saying. And it came to pass that when the Spirit rested upon them, they prophesied and did not cease. So once they got the understanding from Moses, they was able to teach the doctrine. That's all that's saying. Rest means they believe. They believe. All right. That's all it means. All right. It's not anything, supernatural and all that. It's just telling you. It's just writing it in a certain way. You got to know what the parables mean. That's a parable. You got to know what it means. Let's go to 2 Chronicles 32, verse 7. So we can get you another example of resting. Rest means to believe, okay? 2 Chronicles chapter 32, verse 7. This is Hezekiah. Be strong and courageous. Be not afraid nor dismayed for the king of Assyria, nor for all the multitude. That is with him. There be more with us than with him. And with him is an arm of flesh, but with us is the Lord our God to help us and to fight our battles. And the people rested themselves upon the words of Hezekiah, king of Judah. Meaning they believed what he was saying. That's what rest means, when you believe something. All right? Believe something. Sabbath or rest, you got to believe Christ's doctrine. All right? Let's get another one. So you know what rest is talking about. Deuteronomy chapter 12, verse 1. These are the statutes and judgments which ye shall observe to do in the land, which the Lord God of thy fathers giveth thee to possess it all the days that ye live upon the earth. Ye shall utterly destroy all the places wherein the nations which ye shall possess serve their gods, upon the high mountains and upon the hills and every green tree. So he's telling them they're going to have to destroy. When we start talking about mountains and all that other stuff, he's talking about their churches, all right? And he don't want them following their doctrines. And ye shall overthrow their altars and break their pillars and burn their groves with fire. and ye shall hew down the graven images of their gods and destroy the names of them out of that place. So he doesn't want the children of Israel following those doctrines or those people that they taken the land from. All right. We're going to drop down to verse 9 so we can get the understanding of this rest. For ye are not as yet come to the rest and to the inheritance. The rest is the inheritance which the Lord your God giveth you. All right. He's talking about that doctrine, the spiritual doctrine. But when ye go over Jordan, Jordan is a river. That's some understanding. Don't get caught up in river being they actually, it's a river that's on, separating one land from another. Jordan River is some understanding. That's a doctrine. Jordan means a doctrine. When ye go over Jordan and dwell in the land, so you get the understanding of Jordan and you dwelling in that land that the Most High given you, that doctrine, which the Lord your God giveth you to inherit. And when he giveth you rest from all your enemies round about, so that ye dwell in safety. So dwell and rest mean the same thing. All right. Dwell and rest mean the same thing. He's talking about you gonna rest or dwell in safety once you get the doctrine. Dwell and rest means the same thing. Once you believe the doctrine, you're gonna be free of your enemies that's kept you captive with their doctrines. That's what that's saying. All right, so now you know that dwell and rest mean the same thing. So let's go to Joel, so you can get more of this rest or dwell. Joel chapter 3, verse 17. So shall you know that I am the Lord your God, dwelling in Zion, my holy mountain. Then shall Jerusalem be holy, and there shall no strangers pass through her any more. So it's telling you that he dwells or rests in Zion. All right. His holy mountain. The holy mountain is his people. That's the people who believe his doctrine. He gonna rest in that congregation, meaning those people who believe his doctrine. That's his mountain. Then shall Jerusalem be holy. It's going to be holy when the people believe the doctrine. Remember, we said that they going to dwell in safety. All right. So it means they resting. All right. There shall no strangers pass through her anymore. Ain't going to be no more strange doctrines coming up in there. Everybody going to be following the same doctrine, which is Jerusalem. That's the name of the doctrine. Let's get you another example. We're going to Zechariah chapter 8, verse 3. Thus saith the Lord, I am returned unto Zion, and will dwell in the midst of Jerusalem. And Jerusalem shall be called the city of truth, and the mountain of the Lord of hosts, the holy mountain. It's saying the same thing that it just said in Joel. They're going to have rest, and they're going to dwell in that doctrine called Jerusalem. Jerusalem, which is above, is free. That's the doctrine. All right, that's our mother, which is the mother of us all. So you need to understand that the Sabbath is a feast day. Feast means eat. Eat means learn. The Sabbath day is a day of learning, but there's a specific thing we must learn. We must learn the spiritual commandments, which is Christ's doctrine. Currently, the only doctrine being taught is the carnal understanding. The Most High is telling us we must rest in the new understanding. Rest means believe that he provided us through the words of the man we call Jesus the Christ. We showed you in the previous video that convocations mean the gathering of people unto one understanding. Then it says 6 days shall work be done. That is the prophet debating them scriptures. You can debate all of them carnal doctrines versus other doctrines. He says you can defend and research for 6 days, but on the seventh day, there is no debate. That's what he's telling you. We are no longer under the carnal law. but now under the spiritual law that Christ left us. These are the laws we need to debate for 6 days. On the Sabbath day, the Most High wants the prophet to have full understanding of the spiritual law and present it to the people. Matthew 17 tells us Christ told us not to follow the carnal interpretation of Moses or Elijah, but to hear ye him. I'm going to tell you the interpretation without all the supernatural flair that is now taught. When you hear the supernatural interpretation, it is nothing but a Jewish fable. The word's actually telling you what's happening if you have spiritual eyes and know how to listen to the word spiritually. All right. We are not debating what you believe. You can believe whatever you want, but you can't prove what you're saying supernaturally. You can't go back in time and say, oh, this happened. I just know it. All you can do is have faith that that's what happened. Right. But you can't prove it. All you can do is just say, they told me I got to have faith. But in the spiritual interpretation, you can prove it. All right. Matthew 18:16. It says a matter will be established by 2 or 3 witnesses. Those 2 or 3 witnesses are precepts. If you have 2 or 3 precepts showing that that's what that means, that's what that means. That's how you establish a matter, with the precepts to back it up. Those precepts. We have given you precepts for these words in the past, and we got videos with it on it. So you can look at those videos in order to find out what I'm saying. All right. But we're going to go to Matthew 17, and we're going to break this down for you so you can see the Most High told you to stop doing that carnal law. All right. We keep showing you over and over. He says, stop doing the carnal law. They teaching the carnal law. He's saying, stop doing the carnal law. Guess what people believe? They believe the carnal law. They're doing the exact opposite of what the Most High told them to do. But again, we just going to teach it to you. You can either hear it or you can forbear it. Well, here we go. Matthew 17. We starting at verse 1. And after 6 days, Jesus taketh Peter, James, and John, his brother, and bringeth them up into an high mountain. So it's after 6 days. That means the 7th day. All right. So this is the Sabbath, right? It says high mountain apart. That means he separated them as a small gathering where he taught those 3 disciples. That's what that's saying. Verse 2. And he was transfigured before them. Transfigured don't mean he turned into a spirit or some kind of heavenly being. That's not what it means. If you keep reading, it's going to tell you what it's saying. All right. The word's going to tell you what it's saying. He was transfigured before them, and his face did shine as the sun, and his raiment was white as the light. So that means, whoa, hey, you know, he turned into an angel. You know, he was heavenly. He was a heavenly being. If you know what them words mean, you ain't going to get caught up in that Jewish fable, okay? His face shined as the sun. Face and raiment mean doctrine, spiritually. You can look at all them other videos we done. We done told you garment is a doctrine. We showed you many times. Shine, sun, light mean wisdom, knowledge, spiritually. It's saying Christ is teaching them something at a high level, meaning the spiritual doctrine. That's what that verse means. Verse 2 is talking about him teaching them the spiritual doctrine separately from all the other disciples. Let's go to verse 3. And behold, there appeared unto them Moses and Elias talking with him. Now, you saying, well, you know, a spirit of apparition of Moses and Elijah showed itself to Peter and James and John. That's what you think. But it's telling you specifically what it's saying. When it said, behold, there appeared unto them Moses and Elijah talking with him. It's telling you that's what the topic that Christ is teaching. That's what it's saying. Talking with him, meaning he's teaching about Moses and Elijah. That's what that means. All right. Verse 4. Then answered Peter and said unto Jesus, Lord, it is good for us to be here. If thou wilt, let us make here three tabernacles, one for thee, one for Moses and one for Elijah, right? So Peter is asking Christ if they should continue to follow the teachings of Moses and Elijah in addition to what he's teaching them now. These are the 3 tabernacles. All right, those are the 3 doctrines that they're debating right now. He's saying, do we need to do the carnal and your thing? So now let's read verse 5. While he yet spoke, behold, a bright cloud overshadowed them, and behold, a voice out of the cloud which said, This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Hear ye him. All right. So now that means they say the clouds opened up and, the Most High, the voice, they all heard the voice of the Most High, and it said that, you need to hear what Christ's saying and all of that, and all that supernatural stuff. But that ain't what it's saying. The bright cloud is the prophet with understanding. That's Christ. Remember, I told you, clouds bring water. Water is the word. Christ is the word. All right. It means he's giving them understanding. Right. And then it says it overshadowed them. Right. Overshadow. Okay. When it's talking about overshadow, listen. Shadow means ignorance. All right. It said it overshadowed them, which means it made what they currently understand ignorant. Shadow means ignorant. So Christ's doctrine, the voice of Christ, the doctrine that he taught them is overshadowing or making ignorant the understanding that they already have. That's what that's saying. His doctrine is overshadowing what they've already learned. That's all that means. The voice is Christ. He's the word. He's telling them that he is the Son of God and for them to listen to his interpretation. That's what that verse is saying. It ain't something mystical and supernatural. He's telling them, stop following the carnal thing that y'all learned and listen to what I'm telling you. I'm telling you my doctrine supersedes the old doctrines of Moses and Elijah. That's what he's telling them. When they heard what Christ taught them, they fell on their face. All right. So that's verse 6. And the disciples heard it and fell on their face and were so afraid. When they fell on their face spiritually means doctrine. Y'all got to go back and watch them videos. Face means doctrine or understanding. And they were afraid, meaning they respected what Christ taught them. They believed him. All right. Verse 7, it says, and Jesus came and touched them and said, arise, be not afraid. You now have he's telling them that you now have the understanding, you are free from the carnal understanding. All right. You got the spiritual understanding and you free from the carnal understanding. All right. Verse 8, it says, when they had lifted up their eyes, they saw no man save Christ only. All right. When they lifted up their eyes mean they see or understand. They believe only what Christ taught them. That's what that means. They didn't see Moses' doctrine or Elijah's doctrine anymore. They saw what Christ had told them. They believed. Right? So verse 9. And as they came down the mountain, Jesus charged them, saying, tell the vision to no man until the Son of Man be risen again from the dead. When that's saying in that verse 9. When they came down the mountain after he finished teaching them, that's what when they came down off the mountain mean, he closed up his teaching. All right. Jesus told them to teach it to the people after he dies, when the law is in effect. That's what that means. After he rose again. That law gonna be in effect after they kill him. Okay, this is now the law. What he taught them about spiritual versus carnal. We follow the spiritual law and not the interpretation of Moses or the prophets of old. We now have a new covenant. That is the rest we must do on the Sabbath. It is not saying go to church. Paul said you are the temple of God in 1 Corinthians 3:16. All right. That is the church you need to attend. Once you rest with the understanding of the spiritual covenant, you are following the instructions of the scriptures. You don't need a man to stand on a pulpit and tell you what to do. You need to learn what Christ's doctrine is. If you going to church and giving all your money to some preacher, thinking that if you go to church and give him your money, you're going to buy your way into heaven, that's not how it works. All you're doing is wasting your money on a man who doesn't understand what Christ told you to do. Only you can be trusted with your salvation, not some man, this king that you following. Get the understanding. Don't come and take my word for it. Get the understanding and be your own personal advocate, learning what Christ is saying so you can rest on the Sabbath as well, and stop breaking the law by listening to these carnal preachers telling you a bunch of lies when the Most High said for them, take a day off. I want them to rest in Christ. Christ said, learn of me, believe his doctrine. That is how you keep the Sabbath holy. That's all I have. Of course, we'd like you to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification button. And with that, I bid you Shalom.